Meanwhile, North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum has suspended his presidential campaign. He did so yesterday, leaving just 6 GOP candidates in the race. This ahead of the 4th GOP debate in Alabama tomorrow night. A News Nation Decision Desk poll finds President Trump maintains his lead in the primaries. 60% of GOP voters say they are voting for Trump. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley remain in a tight fight for second place. 11% of Republican voters say they'd vote for DeSantis. 10% say they'd vote for Haley. Joining me right now is Fox News contributor, pollster, and former senior counselor to President Trump, Kellyanne Conway, back with us this morning. Kellyanne, always wonderful to see you. Thanks very much for being here. Assess the state of the race for us.
Well, it's Donald Trump's nomination to lose, and he likely won't. He's already pivoted to a general election strategy, Maria, in many of the ways he's taking on Joe Biden frontally. I think skipping these debates, some say it deprives our democratic process. I think for President Trump, he sees it as a way of not showing up for those who have been on the debate stage and are unable to catch his lead. We'll see what they have to say that's different and new tomorrow night. I'm glad that people have a chance to see a competitive process, unlike the Democratic Party, where Jamie Harrison, the DNC chair, has said absolutely no debates. It compelled RFK Jr. to go from the Democratic primary against Joe Biden. The Kennedy is no longer running as a Democrat, Maria. He's got to run as an independent because they're so afraid of putting Joe Biden on the debate stage. But I was very curious to watch Ron DeSantis last night tell our own Laura Ingraham that he's, quote, closer to Donald Trump on policy than Nikki Haley is. So it shows you the conundrum that these candidates have. On the one hand, you must attack Donald Trump to beat him, and on the other hand, you must attract the Trump voter to beat Donald Trump, and that's difficult to do. So those who say Donald Trump has the base aren't really paying attention to the fact that 74 million people from 2020, plus and adding those who are going to vote for him this time who weren't there in 2020 for him, that's not a base. That's a very large percentage of the country. Maria, last point, I have my eye on the prize. We already have a president and a vice president. Their names are Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Wake up, everyone. They could get reelected, even with these bad poll numbers, with everything against them, with Joe Biden basically 0 for 300 at bat as president. They could get reelected because the Democrats are very savvy and a little slimy when it comes to mechanics and procedure. They're telling people not for whom to vote or why based on policy and philosophy, Maria. They're telling them how to vote, where to vote, and when to vote. It's all about mechanics for them. If you don't believe me, believe them. They just elected Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, John Fetterman, and a lot of uninspiring, unethical, and incompetent leaders in the last couple of years alone based on mechanics.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great point to make in terms of mechanics. They know the strategy, and they're going to push their strategy, even as far as, you know, trying to take Donald Trump's name off of the ballot in Colorado, among other places. Fox News' White House correspondent Jackie Heinrich grilled the administration over the Florida Democrat Party's decision to cancel the state's Democrat primary election. Watch this.
I know.
In 2021, President Biden called Georgia's election law changes new Jim Crow laws that were antithetical to who we are. They imposed voter identification requirements, limited use of drop boxes, and gave state officials more power over local elections. And then in 2022, Georgia did have record turnout, but you had argued from the podium that there was voter suppression. Does the White House still believe that that was true?
I don't have anything else to add from what I stated last time.
So does the Florida party then, effectively canceling the Democratic primary, also constitute voter suppression?
I can't speak to that.
Why not?
You have to speak to the campaign or the DNC.
Nothing more to add, Kellyanne. I mean, is this the strategy just to ensure that Trump is out of Biden's way? And is that the reason that Trump is still number one? Because viewers figured this out.
Yes. Yes, both are true, Maria. Also, just look at Joe Biden's polling. I know we cover it often, but let me just dig into the numbers for a moment. His approval rating on every major issue is underwater, but his worst disapproval ratings, over 60%, are on both foreign policy and the economy. This is very much vexing and perplexing the American people now. These are the things that they're saying Joe Biden can't handle. He has stopped saying Bidenomics. There was a report yesterday in the Washington Examiner, a very good story about how Bidenomics was said over 100 times all last summer and spring, and now they haven't even mentioned it in over a month. They're talking about Maganomics. They know they can't do this. Congress doled out $7.5 billion to build new electric vehicle facilities. 0 have been built. It goes on and on. All these things he's doing to try to mollify the left is not working. But I think that Joe Biden's poll numbers are sort of frozen in time, kind of like Joe Biden. And that's why people are looking at Trump about Karine Jean-Pierre. She also said to the press yesterday, Maria, at the end of that press conference, see you in Boston. What's going on in Boston today? Joe Biden has 3 campaign events. The press secretary is going to these political events, it sounds like, with the president. Yet she can't answer basic questions from Fox News' Jackie Heinrich about whether or not voters are having their franchise suppressed by just not having a competitive primary. I think the Biden White House believes they can throw at this all against Trump and MAGA, and they're going to fail because people feel so desperate about their personal economic situations. They're so upset about true chaos and crisis, not in a tweet, but at the southern border, in Israel, in Ukraine, and many other places, in our own communities, that they're going to come. And I think Joe Biden bleeding a lot of voters of color this time is the worst thing he's got going for him. Second, his bleeding Gen Z. To coin a phrase, they don't think he's got much riz, short for charisma, word of the year for Gen Z.
There's also the corruption in plain sight, and Karine Jean-Pierre won't answer questions about that either. House Republicans are hoping to hold a vote to formally initiate the impeachment inquiry into President Biden for the sole reason of the DOJ start responding to these subpoenas after the newly released bank records from the House Oversight Committee. They show Hunter Biden's Chinese company, Wasco, made direct monthly payments to Joe Biden in 2018. It was payments of $1,400 happening 3 times. The total is more than $4,000, Kellyanne. Again, another bombshell by the Oversight Committee. The mainstream media will not touch it.
They won't touch it, but the people see it, and good for Fox News and Fox Business for covering. Maria, here's the deal. We're going to have these testimonies. We're going to have, I think, a hearing around December 13th, but this is why it's important. Joe Biden lied on the debate stage to the American people. Nobody on TV, especially in those debates, is under oath. Take it to the bank, folks. When he said that the laptop's not real, 51 intelligence officers, et cetera, never discussed business. We also know, by the way of the Comer investigation, about 20 shell companies set up. Why do you set up shell companies, Maria? Because you want transparency and you want honesty. You don't want the IRS. We have these IRS whistleblowers. So there's a lot to see here. Even if Karine Jean-Pierre has nothing to say there's a lot to see here. The other thing is this will be the first election where all of this is litigated at the ballot box. People who don't think Joe Biden is worth another term because of his complete policy failings and personal energy and agility failings, they have this on their mind as well. I think embedded in this Joe Biden disapproval ratings, Maria, is all of this unfinished business, all these unanswered questions, and a completely incurious mainstream media about the Biden corruption. Folks, it came from countries like Russia, Ukraine, and China that are in the news daily. So we need to know if there's nothing there, then the Biden people shouldn't be afraid to have these testimonies. But we also need to know what's going on. Maria, also, these polls that are coming out, the mainstream media polls, the Gallup poll last week, some of them are of adults. Adults usually help people like Democrats like Joe Biden. His numbers are actually worse. And that means that he's not going to be able to inspire people to turn out, whether or not he's saying MAGA, MAGA, Trump, Trump. It's just not going to work this time.
Well, we'll see. We'll see what the Democrats do about it and whether they swap him out for Gavin Newsom or somebody else. Kellyanne, always a pleasure to get your insights. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Kellyanne Conway joining us in D.C.